ways of looking at Advaita, or two types of people who speak about Advaita. And one way of phrasing it is called Kriya Advaita, and the other one is called Bhava Advaita. Kriya Advaita is trying to explain non-duality in this world, or trying to explain non-duality to someone else, or in relation to something, or as connected with events, or as formulated in this and that philosophy. And that is bound to be inaccurate, because it violates the very definition of non-duality itself. There's something called Bhava Advaita, which is the experience of Advaita. Bhava, the actual mood of Advaita, when the experience itself comes, it has all the descriptions and all the attempts are just wiped out. It's not, there's no connection, there's no relationship. I mean, Advaita in experience is a totally indescribable experience, as attested to by all the people who have experienced it. Meister Eckhart talks about it in some of his sermons, although he doesn't mention it as such, but what he mentions is very much like that. That is something that's beyond description, beyond something that is beyond God, beyond any reality that you can conceive of or that you can express in any sense. So there's no argument, because there is no other. At that state, the Upanishads say, who is to describe this to whom, and by what means? Who is to experience this, and how is it to be communicated to anyone? That is the oneness that we're talking about. But any description that you make is bound to be partially right and partially wrong. And so for two people describing the same thing, or trying to describe this, to argue with each other is totally, totally inappropriate, because neither one of them is really talking about the experience itself. So how is this going to manifest in our life? How is this going to help us? I mean, if the experience is so rarefied and so indescribable that it cannot be phrased, it cannot be verbalized, it cannot be even implied, it can only be experienced. Even beyond experience, you can only be Advaita, be the non-dual state. So how does that help us now in this particular state where nothing is totally surrounded by duality and opposites, and we're pushed and pulled in so many directions? So how can that ultimate state of Advaita, which we have nothing to do with at the moment, how can that possibly help us? And the point is, we may not experience it fully, it still may be an intellectual concept. But this Bhava Advaita, the non-duality as a mood, can be practiced right now. I mean, you can feel that non-duality, even though you can't describe it. You can feel the total oneness of everything at this moment, and you can feel the reality of the total interconnectedness of everything, of the oneness of all you can feel that oneness in your heart, at least in a, if not totally, at least you can you can get to the edge of that mood. You can sort of extrapolate as to what it would be like. And that is really the only way Advaita can be taught, to get people to actually try to go into that mood of infinite love, infinite existence. I mean, it's a mood in which one tries to imagine that God or the infinite spirit or whatever name you want to give it is totally present everywhere right now. And that can be practiced. That Advaita can be practiced. But if you want to start a discussion about it, or an argument in any sense, or even a description, it falls so far short that on a deep level, it never reaches a deep level at all. But internally, inside, we can be absorbed a little bit into the edges of a mood that leads toward that, where we feel that everything is one, everything is interconnected, there are no boundaries anywhere, there are no limits anywhere. We can actually get a slight feeling, a slight taste of that, and then that can be enhanced and that can be developed. And so that would be a sort of a practical way of trying to get into this thing, which is really beyond experience, cannot be said to be experience, but you can only be that. The whole thing is that this whole universe is nothing but that. All of our experience is only that. And just to somehow get into that mood a little bit on the edges, you get a feeling for it. That itself is going a great way, a great distance. And it takes all other things like death or decay or all these negative things, it just erases them entirely.